validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. Very interesting Sunday afternoon. It has been, I gotta tell you. So we have quite a lot of weird things going on right now. What was the updates? There isn't very many changes, but we do know that we're going to be covering certain topics on Monday as it pertains to how this ceasefire thing is going to happen with the president and all this other stuff. But here on This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, we do not let the sun rise without going live. But we don't always start on time. And we ask you guys to like and subscribe, and then also hit those notification buttons, as well as hold on. Hit those notification buttons, tap the reaction buttons, check out the membership, and then, like I said before, like and subscribe. Now, I got distracted for a moment there because I was sitting over here like, man, I'm over here enjoying the beat. Did not even upload tonight's discussions. All right, so we have different topics every night of the week, and Sundays are typically questions and comments from the fans. We got at least one or two long ones tonight. that we're going to be going over, but feel free to appropriately respond to the comments and questions that we've got to the best of your abilities. And we'll kind of have a little bit of a discussion on this. This is like a learning process with bad decision-making skills that comes to light in the outcome not being favorable to the complainer. So we're going to go ahead and go into this in different ways so that people can understand what that's about. Now, if you guys have some questions that you guys want to know about yourselves, how to get through some stuff that y'all got going on, if they're appropriate questions for appropriate topics, feel free to put those in there. Just like Sterling did the other day, if you're here to put in your appropriate 2 cents for the show, you have the ability to click the mic or click the link, approve the mic, approve the camera, and it'd be bring you on in real time, and then you'd be able to appropriately communicate your concerns, your values, and this, that, and the third. But again, we say appropriately. We have had a couple people come up here and be very inappropriate. So we're just going to make sure that we re-emphasize that. Now, outside of the questions and comments that we have on Sundays, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we have a little bit of business and politics, where Monday we talk about how politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. So we're not just going to be talking what happened with Congress. We're going to be talking about how much money America has wasted on that and how we could have reallocated that opportunity cost to other more effective things for the country that probably could have had the country running a little bit better, right? Then Tuesdays, we talk about different ways to make money, save money, invest money. And then we tiptoe into Wednesdays, where we talk about different countries around the world to invest in. Where this week, by request from Stephen, one of the members of the membership, we're going to be talking about Canada. So I'm going to be giving you guys ins and outs of Canada, some things that you have heard on this podcast before, because we have compared Canada to other places, but we have never actually done an exclusive on Canada. So we're doing an exclusive on Canada this time. So make sure that you guys stay tuned for that. Now, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we have self-improvement, personal development, relationship topics, socializations, negotiations, building your brand. And we talk about promotions, raises. This past few days, we've been talking about retirement, forced retirement, severance packages, terminations, where this coming, I think Thursday or Friday, we're going to be talking about how to negotiate when you're getting fired because they just don't like you. There's a little less leeway there if you're the one fucking up. But again, with being fired, there is some negotiation, but you work it out with what you're entitled to versus what you voluntary resignation is what I would call it. It's like, they want to fire you, but instead of you waiting for them to get there, you voluntarily withdraw from the situation, which saves them the abilities of having to terminate you, kind of situation. So we're going to be talking about that coming up. Then we talk about the 20 to 30-year plan. We talk about building your brand. We talk about all of the things that makes your ability to live life functionally more effectively. We talk about that as like a worthwhile kind of situation. We want to make sure that everything is the way it is supposed to be for you. Because if you figure out where you want to be at in the future, and then we discuss how you have to reverse engineer that, what do you have to accomplish today to get there? That's kind of one of the best ways to have a plan. Because just saying I want to be successful, just saying that I don't want to live in the hood, just saying that I don't want to be broke, that's not really talking about like what your life is going to be like. Are you going to be a homeowner? Are you going to continue to rent? Are you going to live in an upscale neighborhood, middle-class neighborhood, low-class neighborhood? Are you okay with gunshots and helicopters, or do you want a gated community? Is it in America or is it not in America? Do you want an expensive state or a cheap state? Do you want a lot of farmland or do you want no land at all? Like, you got to really think about this. Then what kind of effort you're going to put into your lifestyle? Are you going to be doing all the stuff that you need done for you manually, or are you going to be paying people to do some things for you, right? And then the older you get, the more you're going to probably need somebody to do some things for you. All of these things are decisions that leads to your ability to have your final budget, and then you have to reverse engineer how to get that budget, right? And then we talk about like if you wanted to go to another country and live, or if you wanted to travel the world and maintain your home where you are, all of these different things set you up for a more effective, successful outcome that not a lot of people actually know anything about, because we typically work from paycheck to paycheck, day to day, where we only know when we are told to show up. And then we know that when our phone rings, we're getting called in on our day off, that we're going to show up again. And we on idle, we're on call, because on our days off, we need to sleep. So we don't really prioritize anything other than going to work. And then discretionary spending is us entertaining ourselves, because we work so damn much. We spend a little bit of the extra money that we get from all the overtime hours that we have to entertain ourselves, so that we can feel like we have validated our lifestyle. But it is a work-sleep lifestyle. There isn't a work-life balance. It's just work, right? No free time, no personal time, very little time with your family. 10, 15 minutes with the kids, 5, 10 minutes on the phone with a couple of family members. You got family members you only talk to once a season, or sometimes once a year, and you call that a fulfilling life, where you spend most of the time doom scrolling on social media, having highly integrated long conversations with other people on like video game platforms and other such things, idly, where that interaction actually could have been interactions in person with people that you actually know, that you actually claim to value, right? It's crazy that we have lost sight of things so much on that dynamic. Well, people say that. Michael says you can sleep when you're dead. In the meantime, create your heaven on earth. People say that you can sleep when you're dead, but you should be able to factor in at least 6 to 8 hours a day that is guaranteed to you getting some rest. Even if you're not sleeping, even if you're just like meditating, doing some exercise, turning your mind off, you know what I mean? If you're the kind of person that only sleeps 2 to 4 hours a day, or 6 hours at the most, but you take 8 hours and say, that's my me time, right? That leaves you with what, 16 hours out of the day, where if 6 hours of that is going to be socializing with people, and 10 hours out of that is going to be work, including the commute to and from work, you still have 6 hours a day socializing with people. But 8 hours out of that day, don't fuck with me, right? And that's not something that people think about. Because even if you're not sleeping, like I said, some of us might want to get in shape, exercise a little bit. We might be too lean, and we might want to get bulky. We might be a little too heavy, and we might want to slim down some, but we don't find time to exercise. But if you took 2 hours out of the 8 hours of me time that you have, you might not sleep for 8 hours. But if you only sleep for 6 hours, but you spend 2 hours in the gym, you now have 2 hours a day to improve your fitness. There's a reason why I don't set aside 8 hours a day for me time. And if your do gets 80% of results, then you should be eliminating the 80% of things that's a waste of time. Yourself more time to live on the things that you value. He says 6 to 8 hours is a pipe dream for me. Yeah, but even still, Stephen, if you're sleeping 2 to 4 hours and you take 8 hours a day of me time, that gives you 2 hours a day to exercise and 2 hours a day to cook for yourself. So instead of spending a lot of time eating takeout and a lot of times wasting extra money on to-go foods and eating at restaurants and everything, you can actually spend 3 out of 4 hours cooking yourself something to eat in bulk, portion it out into little Tupperware things, put them into the fridge, and then go to the gym for an hour. You still get your 2 to 4 hours of sleep. You've got home cooked meals, and you can still spend the rest of your day doing what you normally do every day. Right? It is possible. You just have to have the motivation to make changes. He said, what you doing with the extra 16 hours? I would assume the average person who has a job is going to be at work for at least 10 or 12 of those hours. Steven's got a 12-hour shift. He drives to work and drives back. He might spend 1 to 2 hours driving to and from work. That's 14 hours out of his 16 hours. Probably stop at a gas station and spend 30 minutes getting gas. So, 14 and a half hours, which means he's kind of got an hour and a half out of that extra 16 hours that he could be doing his schoolwork, since he's a college student. Look, see how I just manage somebody else's life? I just came out of nowhere and managed somebody else's life. So he can work a 12-hour shift. he could do his schoolwork, put gas in his car, and still have 6 hours out of his day to spend 1 hour at the gym, 2 hours working. You know what I mean? Or 2 hours, well, 1 hour working out, 2 hours cooking for himself. You know what I mean? And still be able to save a little bit of money and find more meaningful stuff. But it depends on what kind of lifestyle you have. If you're spending all day at work, like you got an 8-hour morning job and an 8-hour night shift job because you don't make enough money going around. You know, that's one of the reasons why a lot of students used to take out student loans so that they could quit one of those jobs and subsidize their income with student loans. I don't advise that. If you're going to take out student loans, you want to invest them, like I told you guys before. But if you're working 2 jobs and going to school, what the average person will do is spend most of their time on campus when they're not at work. Even if they're not applying themselves to their schoolwork, they spend most of their time on campus when they're not at work. So they're at the house just enough time to sleep. That's it. They a lot of times leave a lot of their schoolwork in their bag, in their laptop until they get to school, and they will stay at school all afternoon and do what they got to do with their schoolwork, and then they leave the school, and when they go back to the house, it's pretty much all they do is sleep, right? So 4 days a week they're doing schoolwork, because from Monday to Thursday, that's the typical university hours. And then even though the school is open to the public on the weekends, there's no classes. You're not going to school on the weekends. You're working on the weekends. But instead of prioritizing 3 days a week where you can try to do something, you know what I mean? A lot of people forget how yeah, it is a lot of excuses that a lot of people don't prioritize their time in order for them to have the best utilization of their time. If I want to exercise is something that you put into your mind, then you need to block out 1 hour a day or 30 minutes a day, depending on how much exercise you want to do. You might start off and say, well, I'm going to block out 30 minutes a day. And out of that 30 minutes, I'm going to try to do at least 10 or 20 minutes worth of exercise, right? So 30 minutes a day, I'm going to exercise, right? You might find yourself exercising and get used to doing it because it's something that you've never been doing before, and you get used to doing it. Then you say, okay, well, I'm just going to take this hour and I'm going to exercise. And you set yourself an alarm clock. From now until the alarm goes off, I'm going to be doing something that is specifically dedicated to exercise, nothing else. No video games, no social media platforms, no trolling on TikTok, nothing like that. Like phones off, computers off, just exercise. Yoga, meditation, whatever you need to do, right? All of that is considered exercise because meditation is mental exercise. Yoga, physical stretching, right? Weightlifting is going to be muscle building. You can do all of those things, right? But that's 1 hour out of 24, which leaves you with 23. And if you spend 3 hours a day cooking, that leaves you with 20. You spend 4 to 6 hours sleeping, right? That should leave you with 14 to 16 hours. And if you're working 12 hours a day, you got 2 extra hours to socialize. So is it easier to cook for several days at a time? Yeah, I agree. Because what some people do is they're like, oh, well, I don't want to waste food, and they'll only cook for today. But you might not have time management to cook every day. You also might not have the motivation and the energy to cook every day, because 3 hours for one meal, you might be like, fuck that. But if you cook in bulk, I know most families, especially if you got old school that was born in the 50s and stuff like that, y'all know y'all got some kettles in your house, big ass pots in your house. You can cook in bulk. You can buy some crock pots off of Temu, that fucking 10-liter crock pots, big ass crock pots. And y'all can do some beef stew, some beef stroganoff. Y'all can do some spaghetti and meatballs. Y'all can do all kind of stuff with a crock pot. You can look up recipes that work well in a crock pot. Get your 2 crock pots. And then you can cook on a regular basis, because you can set the crock pot for 4 to 6 hours. You can leave and come back and just add some water to that bitch just to keep it moist until you get ready to start boxing everything up. And it, again, like we said before, put the stuff in Tupperware, and then put the Tupperware in the fridge, and you'll find yourself with way more food in the house that you can just take out of the microwave, take out of the fridge one at a time, and put them in the microwave and cook them some bitches up. It just depends on how much you want to put effort into yourself, and then you can get creative on it. Because instead of eating the same old regular TV dinners, you can find yourself getting creative with certain recipes and meals online. And then you can find yourself making stuff that you never thought that you would make before. Like when I made the boneless spare ribs, when I made the quesadillas, when I made the surf and turf shrimp and beef burgers and stuff like that. Yeah, you can find yourself like getting into a whole new groove of things. Yeah, and then you freeze them. That's right. You freeze them, put them in the freezer. And then when you take them out of the freezer, just like a frozen dinner, take them out of the freezer, put them in the microwave, heat them up. And you got a refrigerator full of food that your grocery bill will go down. You know that, right? Not only will your shopping bill go down, your grocery bill will go down, but you will find a lot of value in the fact that when you're cooking for yourself and when you're cooking for family members, because like Steven, you live with your family members, so you cooking for family members, you find that you're going to put more effort into the food. You're going to find yourself putting more effort into the plate presentation for the food that you're putting up. You're not just going to slop it down like groundskeeper Willie in the cafeteria from The Simpsons. You're going to actually like portion it out and make sure that the edges look neat and all this other stuff. And then you're going to put it in the freezer. Then dad's going to go in there and grab it and put it in the microwave. And oh, this is good food, son. You're like, yeah, oh, right. And you know, it's a bonding moment. So it's one of them things that, you know, not a lot, but it does give you an area of time management. You have to find ways to do things that will benefit you in ways where people will still be able to get what they need out of you, but you get what you need out of your life. Because if all you're doing, like I said, is working and sleeping, why are we putting all of this money away if we're not going to use it? We have to create a future where we have more time. We're putting away all this money so that we have enough money to pay for that future, but we have to create the future where we have more time, which means we have to take responsibility off of our plate, not evade responsibility, right? Reduce the things that we are obligated to manage, right? That's one of the reasons why I talked to you guys about Charles Schwab, because you can't micromanage the situation yourself in your portfolio. You can actually provide that trust to Charles Schwab, and then they can micromanage your money for you. All you got to do is just send them the money, and then they micromanage it for you. And if the trust has dividend allocations, Charles, you should have a bucket of money sitting somewhere that can be used for allocations. And if you were using Fidelity, while it costs a little bit more for Fidelity, and you would have to give them the entire trust agreement instead of just giving them the certificate of trust, Fidelity would sweep all of the money that's supposed to be dispersed to individuals into a high interest savings account until it gets dispersed, which makes it easier for the trustee to take the allocatable money that wasn't reinvested into the brokerage account and produce it to the beneficiaries. So when I did that research and I started talking to you guys about that the other day, I was talking to you guys about that specifically because if somebody else is moving your money around, yeah, it's going to cost you a little bit of money, right? It's not a lot of money though, because we were like the highest one was like 0.8% interest on your principal. When you start getting like $1 million or whatever, that turns into a lot of money. But when you're dealing with $100,000 or less, 0.8%, that's less than 1%. Right? Which is like $1,000 for every $100,000 that you got put away. It's not a lot of money, right? And the fact is that somebody else can manage your money for you, right? You set the precedent when you build trust. You give them the money, they do what you say do, and they get a fee for that, right? Now you are covered because now you know that your money's going to get allocated the way you want it to be allocated, and then the rest of the capital is going to be utilized to take care of shit around the way. If you have property, I actually just found out that there is a transfer on death title, a transfer on death deed that can occur, where what you do is you draft this document, get it notarized, provide it to your local not tax assessor, your local deed county clerk person, right? And what happens is that you designate a specific individual that's going to claim the house after you pass. Now, because it's not being sold, it's being transferred. It's not being given away as a gift, it's being transferred. You really only have to pay the cost of the court, which is a few dollars based on the filing fees, right? But you don't have to go through probate. Nobody can come out of nowhere and try to claim the asset because your ancestor died, and now you got brothers and sisters coming out of nowhere trying to come and stake claim on a property. Well, no. According to the document that was put into place when the ancestors were healthy, this particular property goes directly to this particular legacy, and that legacy can do whatever the fuck they want with it, right? Now, you can actually name a trust as a successor, but if you name a trust, you have to have the certificate of trust when you go to claim the house. So you might be wanting to put the house in a trust, but if you don't create the trust can't claim the house, right? So you would have to create that trust before the ancestor passes, right? But if you want to say, well, I'm going to put myself up there right now, and then do some paperwork down the line when the trust is created, and I'll put the trust on there instead, modifying the documents, putting it into the trust. You can do that, or have the person who's going to get it directly, and then that person put it directly into the trust, right? You can do that. But if your goal is to prevent yourself from being on record, the goal would be for you not to be it go from the previous person directly to the trust so that you are never listed on the property. That's the best way to go about it, right? Yeah, there's going to be no capital gains involved. There's no gift tax, there's no sales tax, there's no nothing like that. And then you don't have to worry about like the estate sales or anything like that. You don't have to worry about anybody coming to seize the property or anything like that, right? But the goal is to do the things that you need to do and then transfer the property, right? That's the goal. But I find these things out because if you have a property and you do a transfer on death and you have the trust set up, even if you have a simple trust that is structuralized just to handle the one homestead that you have. Because I know that you can get a trust for the business, you can get a trust for the vehicles, you can get a trust for the brokerage accounts. But if you have just a trust structuralized enough to maintenance the house a certain way and pass that house down from legacy to legacy, you can start there and then make another trust for other things, right? You can have a separate trust for all of your big money assets, right? It doesn't kill you because, the percentage is going to be the percentage. It's not like compounding trust is going to negatively impact your overall capital. But if you have something worth losing, that's the first thing you put into the trust. And then you want to keep your vehicles separate from your houses so that if a car crash occurs, they can't take the house. So you put your valuable house in a trust, and then you put your businesses in another trust, and then you put you know what I mean? Then you put your vehicles in another trust, and then you put your cash in another trust, right? And you might have your vehicles leased to your business, where your business will pay your vehicle trust capital, where your vehicle trust will pay the maintenance on the vehicles, right? And all of this kind of plays into a way where still you have a conglomerate of things that are operating on your behalf. You're walking away from these responsibilities. You don't have to check the oil on each one of these cars. Somebody's getting paid to do that, right? You're not scheduling to take these fuckers to Firestone. Somebody's getting paid to do that, right? You don't have to worry about the annual maintenance on a property. Somebody's getting paid to do that. So now all you have to do is show up. If the house is in a trust where the trust is paying on the mortgage and the property taxes and shit like that, you still have the capabilities of living your best life and then coming back to the property, and you don't got to do shit. The lights, gas, water is all paid for by the trust. So all you got to do is just show up, unlock the door, and walk in. Can they discover that these trusts are controlled by you? The trust is controlled by the trustee. So is the trustee on record? Yes. But the successor trustee is not on record. And if so, starting off, trust, you as the over the trust, as the beneficiary of the trust, where you still are in control of your shit. When you die, it becomes an irrevocable trust. And the next person that comes up can be the trustee. That person is in control of everything. When you get a third party company to handle your trust, that is when you own nothing and you have to contact a third party and gain access to your stuff. And they're paid to give it to you based on that contract. Now, the way that works is that if you set up the trust correctly, your legacy will always have a place to live. They may always have reliable transportation, as long as they don't destroy all of the vehicles. But they're not going to be allocated very much money to screw their lives up, but they'll be allocated enough money where they won't have to suffer, right? They can chase their dreams and do whatever the fuck they want to do with their lives, but they also can still make, even if they're failing in life, they can still get those allocations from the trust where they can retire. About getting stuff done. That's going to be something that not a lot of people think about when the trust is made public record. Like when you do the title change for the property, the trustee that has legal authorization to handle the property is going to be listed on the property. So if you're going to be the trustee over the trust, you might as well just put the property as a TOD on yourself and then transfer it into a trust for yourself, so that because you're going to be listed up there anyway, you're just going to be as a trust. And then you can just slide it into the trust. And either way, it still works itself out. But let's say that Charles Schwab's is a trustee. If Charles Schwab's is a trustee, my name isn't on anything. I control what happens because there was a contract that was created and I put Charles Schwab's in charge. So no, my name can't be found in the records because I benefit from what Charles Schwab's does. But Charles Schwab's has control. I don't have control. So Charles Schwab's is listed, not me. So to answer your question, can they discover these trusts exist are ones that you control only if you are the trustee. If there's a third party trustee, they don't know anything. You own nothing and control everything because you created the contract as to how you want things to run. And they do what you say to get paid. He said, the house I was born at, it went up for sale. We bought it. Congratulations. And if you wanted to keep it and pass it down from person to person, then you want to buy that. Well, you already bought it. Make it a legacy house is that by putting it into a trust and you put enough money into the trust where the trust generates enough revenue to maintenance the house. Now you have enough money to pay for the third party to operate the trust for you and enough money from the dividends from the brokerage account to be able to pay for the repairs of the house, taxation, utilities, this, that, and the third, where even if you made it a minimalistic structure, it is enough to where the house will always be there and it'll always be in excellent condition. So you can come back to the house after 10 years and the house still looks just as good as it did when you left, and all the utilities are paid for. Your kids can come to the house 10 years after you pass, the house is still in good condition and everything is already paid for. Your great grandkids can come to great granddad's house for the first time in forever and come and see this legacy house and be like, damn, he left this for us, and use it and hopefully don't tear it up. And you'll be in a situation where the house will be usable for generations to come, right? Does a trustee follow your directions? They're supposed to. That's how they get paid. It's a binding contract. So in order for the trustee to get paid, they have to follow the instructions of the trust. Now, we can throw up hypotheticals about like, what if they breach the contract and steal the money and this, that, and the third. You can elect an overseer of the trust to make sure that the trustee is doing what they're supposed to do. I'm not sure if a beneficiary can be listed as an overseer of the trustee, but I mean, you can make sure that there is an overseer written into the trust that can oversee the trustee to make sure that the trustee does what he or she is supposed to do, and that kind of puts some checks and balances in there to make sure that the contract is being done the way it's supposed to be done, that no money is missing, right? So you don't have to worry about being robbed by a big time business. But the more detail that you put, because the more vague that you put in, you put your instructions, the more you make it their responsibility to interpret it however they want. The more details that you put into your trust, the larger your trust is going to be, the more documents you're going to have, or the more pages of a document you're going to have. And when you have a trust bigger than the manga book, a trust bigger than the Bible, a trust bigger than a law book, a trust bigger than a dictionary, there's enough details in there where certain people know, based on page 38, section 5, paragraph 2, that under these circumstances, the trustee do this. And if it ain't in the trust, you can't do it. It says, do you have to buy the real estate in the name of the trust or just transfer it later? Well, you can do both. You can buy the real estate in the name of the trust. You can buy the real estate in the name of a business. You can buy the business in your own name, and then you can transfer it to a trust later. You can buy the business. You can buy the real estate in a business name and then transfer it to a trust later. So it's not required for it to go directly to a physical owner before it goes to a trust. But the trust must be a standalone entity, separate and apart from the person. So you got to have your own EIN. It should be an irrevocable trust design, and then you should be able to pick up the properties and just drop them straight into the trust, where the trust is buying the properties. And if you have dialogue in your contract, in your trust documents, that allows the trust to pick up real estate discretionarily, where the trust can manage the maintenance of those properties and the renting of those properties, where some of that money will subsidize the maintenance of your primary homestead. You can do that too. Right? It really depends on how you want to do it, because you got to remember, the trust is a contract. It's not a business, it's a contract, but it's a very detailed contract that has its own tax identification number. So you can create it however you want to create it. You just have to make sure that what you're demanding in this contract is actionable under the law. That's all you have to do. And if you do checks and balances, where, for example, instead of having your relatives pay rent on the property, you have your relatives stay on the property free and clear, and then have them obtain all benefits and taxationable benefits of being in a homestead. Well, if it's not generating revenue, you the homestead tax credit, which takes a lot of money off of the cost of taxes for that house, right? These are things that people don't know about. He says, I have to be able to sleep right if I was not the trustee. I don't like people in my business, and acting broke is my specialty. Lots to think about. Well, Stephen, you ain't got shit. You don't want nobody to know how much shit you got, and you don't want nobody to take from you what you have. Survival tactic. So what you have to understand is that when you start getting shit, you buy back your time by hiring people that have a reputation of not fucking people over, and you trust them to not fuck you over. If you're going to handle, like you handle your own stock options using the Stash app, but if you made enough money and transferred it over to Charles Schwab or transferred it over to Fidelity, they could manage it for you. The difference is that Charles Schwab's, if you managed it yourself, you could do it for free. There's no membership there. But if Charles Schwab's managed it for you, there's a fee. The thing is that when they start managing your money for you, you no longer have to micromanage your portfolio. When they start managing the repairs on the house, you no longer have to worry about the repairs on the house. When someone else starts paying the light, gas, and water for the house, you no longer have to worry about, are the utilities going to get paid this month? When they start covering the property taxes every year, you no longer have to worry about the property taxes on the property. On hands of your ability and balance the budget and pay bills or anything to that effect, you can literally roll out of bed and sit Mai Tais in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle with no cell reception, specifically because there is no responsibilities that you have to deal with. But as long as you micromanage everything, you're putting the pressure on yourself. Special shout out to OG Kicks. You're putting pressure on yourself to make sure that everything gets done. Now, when you change your mindset, because I've been telling you since long before you came to the show, he says I'm debt free. Okay. Being debt free doesn't change anything because you still have responsibilities. You still have a car insurance that you got to pay for. You still have a phone bill you have to pay for, lights, water, gas that you have to pay for. If you're not renting, you still have property taxes you have to deal with, health insurance, life insurance. You still have day-to-day obligations. So even if you're debt free, you still get you got to do on a day-to-day basis. So being debt free doesn't really mean anything in this conversation. It just means that you don't got to pay credit card bills. But if you put that into the damn trust documents to pay X, Y, and Z, it's going to pay X, Y, and Z, whatever that is, right? Whether do you have to create multiple trusts? No, you can create one trust for one thing. You can create one trust for all things, or you can create multiple trusts for multiple things. The more responsibility that you give a trust before you make it an irrevocable trust, the more the trust can do. Whatever's not in that first trust, once it becomes an irrevocable trust, it cannot be changed once it's irrevocable. Any new stuff that you want to do that could potentially go into a trust, you got to put that in. You should try to put that into a new trust. Now, you could probably put a clause into your revocable trust that allows for you to go through the legal system and pay the cost of court to change your irrevocable trust through legal actions. But that leaves the door wide open for relatives that know about the trust by your trust. So if you want to trust an ironclad situation, once it becomes irrevocable, it cannot be changed. Once it cannot be changed, that trust does its thing, and then you start up another trust to do other things. So if you've got 20 houses, you can have one trust to handle all 20 houses, or you can have 20 trusts handling 20 houses. As long as each trust has the capital to pay for itself, it can be a standalone, self-sustainable situation. So the goal is for you to try to set yourself up in a position where you no longer have these micromanaging responsibilities. He says, buy properties under your LLC. That's one way to do it. You can buy it under your LLC. You can buy it under a C corporation. You can buy it under the trust. If the money's in the trust, to buy it under the trust, you can buy it under the trust. You can put the money up for the trust and just put the trust on there as the buyer. The seller doesn't care. What matters is whose name's going on a deed when the property is sold, especially if you're buying it cash up front. If you're mortgaging the property, and if the property want to remain anonymous in society, you don't want to put yourself directly on the trust. But if you are going to if you don't care, you can put yourself on it. You can put yourself on not the trust, on the title. If you want to remain anonymous, you don't want to put yourself on the title of the house in society. But if you don't care about being anonymous, you can put yourself on the title in society. But if you put the house in a trust, the trust owns the house. So the trustee on record would own the house. And if you have the ability to pay a third party, I would recommend that you pay a third party, because when it comes down to litigation, if you are the trustee and the beneficiary in the United States, they can tear that trust apart, which allows for them to be able to gain access to your assets. So if you are the beneficiary and you have a third party that's a trust, I know that people have trust issues. You don't want to make your best friend the trustee over your estate. They might fuck you over. But a company whose job has been for the last 25 or 30 years to manage other people's estates, that company is more trustworthy for you to say, hey, run my trust. This is my contract. He says, thank you for using your sippy cup. Go sit down somewhere, Mike. I've seen a video by a tax CPA showing people setting up trust before they have any real money to put in, and it doesn't make sense. A revocable trust. You start creating the trust now. You get your EIN, because here's the thing. Back in the day, tax identification numbers used to be free, but now they're charging like $230, $250 for a tax identification number. So you got to buy that first. You got to get a bank account for the trust. And these things have to happen in order for you to put money into the trust. The trust has to have a bank in order for you to put money into the trust, right? Creating the trust before you have assets to put in the trust kind of makes it easier for you to put stuff into the trust. If you don't have a trust to put anything in, when you get stuff, you got to put it in your own name until you create the trust to put it into the trust name, and then you got to transfer it to the trust, because the trust is being built after you've obtained the assets. But if you build the trust before you obtain the assets, you can put the stuff into the trust. A revocable trust. You can create a trust right now, create a bank account right now for the trust, put all of your assets into the trust right now, and have the trust paying for all your responsibilities, close down all the bank accounts that are under your personal name, and have nothing in your name. You can do that. You can create as many bank accounts as reasonably possible and just have it all under the trust name. You're the trustee right now as a revocable trust. You have in your trust, being a revocable trust, that means it's modifiable. As things go along in life, you can say, oh, well, based on this inconvenience, let's add this clause to the trust. Based on this inconvenience, let's add that clause to the trust. Based on how I would prefer this to be handled, let me add these instructions to the trust. That's the revocable part. You keep making the trust bigger. When you die, that's it. It becomes irrevocable. The next person in line for that trust, that person has the magnitude. You don't have to be the stopgap between not having assets and the trust having the assets, where the transition of record, the stuff went into your name at some period of time and then went into the trust name. So if you have the capabilities of creating the trust from the ground up, everything that you need in the trust is accessible. And then you take that and put it into the trust as soon as you need to. You are never recorded on public record as having anything to do with that asset, which allows you to maintain utilization of the asset, and no one ever knows that you got anything, which helps Steven with his abilities to feel concerned about the safeties of others coming to mess with his stuff, right? This is why we say you don't do business with the people in your inner circle. You do business with people that are not in your inner circle, because they have no, what do they call that? No interest in your shit. They want to make money off of your shit. They don't want to give a shit about, I'm not running off of his. I'm money every day to deal with my own stuff, right? He said, what day is it? Well, we're dealing with the Sunday night show that it is technically Monday morning now, because it's after midnight. Where's the horror romance stories? Well, I'm responding to your discussions, because we started talking about trust and real estates, and since this is the questions and comments from the fans, you got a lot of inquiries from everybody today, so I'm just entertaining those until we can get to the main topics. Once I get through everybody's discussions, then I can switch over to the horror romance stories. He says, LSS, the Wyoming LLC, still the best regarding an owner disclosure. Is the Wyoming LLC still the best regarding an owner disclosure? I don't understand what you're talking about. Are you asking me, is the name Wyoming LLC a good owner disclosure? Because I mean, you can call your trust whatever you want to call your trust. I would create a name that would sound more like a holding company. I would best not to use popular names, and I would try to create something that would be more sounding like a holding company. I can't even think of any off the top of my head. Sound more like a holding company, right? And then you use that. It says all your accounts can be in the revocable trust. Yeah, no bank or brokerage accounts in your name anymore. That's correct. Everything. Once you create the trust, you can put everything into the trust. So, like I told you guys before, that you should have a different bank in every state. You should have a bank and a credit union in every state. If you had 100 accounts and they were in the trust, all the assets will be in the trust. Now, the trust is going to be filing taxes on all the money that's being made, but the problem is that the trust is not going to receive the same type of tax deductions that you would personally get off of certain income. But you sacrifice the benefits of tax deductions for the benefit of legal protection. So that's going to be like the trade-off. Have like standardized taxation off of the trust. You might have a little bit higher of taxation because, again, you're not going to have as many deductions available for a trust in comparison to the deductions that you would have with a LLC or a C corporation or your own personal W-2 taxation. So that's going to be the trade-off. But if you put an LLC into the trust that's generating revenue, and the trust is operating that business, any deductions from the LLC in that trust would potentially benefit the trust, which is one of the reasons why people say put 95% of your business into the trust ownership, which allows for the trust to manage that. If you have a 501c3 nonprofit organization, the trust can operate that too, you know. I mean, I understand what you said when you said LLC created in the state of Wyoming. I mean, I understand that, but it's a common name. It's the state of Wyoming. You would have to first see if that name is already being used by something else. If that's what you want to do for your trust, then you can. But I would come off of something a little bit more generic because Wyoming LLC indicates that the trust is in Wyoming, which kind of tips off where to find the information on the trust. But if it was, say, for example, Vantage Incorporated, what the fuck is that? Vantage Incorporated, what the fuck is that? It's not, they got something, but it sounds like a business, right? It's not, where is it? Wyoming LLC indicates that it's in Wyoming, but Vantage Incorporated, where is that? Right? So the idea of creating a trust is, and then you don't want to put the trust in your family name, because if you have like so-and-so trust, you know, John Smith Trust, when they decide to sue John Smith, they can sue John Smith's trust. So you don't want to do family names. He says you can look at a trust as an empty book where you can put your assets in before and after. Yeah, that's true, because you can have a rollover where anything that you did put in a trust before you die can roll over. There might be a little bit of probate there. If you don't have transfer documents that will allow that rollover to occur. So if the trust after paying taxes gives you money, is it tax-free for you? Yes, that is called post-tax money. Any post-tax money is not taxable. That's the whole idea, which means that you would put it into your trust documents post-tax money. That we actually talked about that when we were talking about the difference between the real estate investment trust and BDCs that pass off untaxed money to the shareholders. So the shareholders have to pay taxes on that, but other companies utilize post-tax money, so you don't get taxed on that money as long as your accounts are sitting still. So if you're doing a buy and hold on shares of a company that is giving its shareholders post-tax money, you don't have to pay taxes on a lot of the stuff that they're giving you, right? This is a state of Wyoming does not require to list the original owner's name I believe the name of the LLC is not Wyoming. Well, the way it looked like you were putting up Wyoming LLC, and I was like, yeah, you should probably call your business something else. You could, because they got some places that like use the name of the city or the state that they operate out of as the name of their company. They're a small localized business, so they operate out of the area in which they advertise on their vehicles when they put the city or state that they work out of as, you know, um, Wyoming landscaping. That means they only cut grass in Wyoming. That's it, right? But a lot of places do not require to list the original owner's name if it goes directly into the trust from the previous owner. So if person A sells it to person B and person B wants to put it directly into the trust can be listed as the recipient. And most states do it that way. When it comes down to vehicle assets, some states put when you put the vehicle in the business name, they still use the birth date of the purchaser as the renewal date for the license plate because a business doesn't have a birthday. I don't know why they don't just do the creation date of the business as the birth date of the business. They use the birth date of the person buying the vehicle as the rollover date for the license plates. So, but the vehicle is registered to the business. You don't have to, only when you finance the vehicle do you have to put the business or put the vehicle in the name of the financer. But if you're not financing it, you don't have to put your name on it. You can put anybody's name on it. You can buy a vehicle cash up front and put your kid's name on it because you own it, right? Same thing with the house. You can buy the house cash up front, put your kid's name on it because you own it, right? That just shows who has legal authority over the house. So when you're in most states around the country, you don't have to put your own personal name on the property if you have a trust to put it in upon sale. But even in Wyoming, somebody owns the house right now. And if that somebody is you, you're on record. When you put it into the trust owns the house. Until you put it into the trust, you own the house. So if you bought the house from ABC Incorporated and you haven't built your trust yet, they put it in your name upon sale. You're the last owner of the house until you put the house into the trust. Now the trust is the last owner of the house. But you will be one of the former owners of the house. So it doesn't require you to list your name or the last person's name in a successor chain if you're doing a triple title change or some shit like that. But yeah. He said romance and horror stories happen don't have a trust. Well, romance and horror stories happen, and that's the reason why you need a trust. We're about to get into those horror stories. We're about to get into those horror stories. But yeah, romance and horror stories happen, and that's one of the reasons why you need a trust. And that's one of the reasons why you need an irrevocable trust with a third party operating it. Because if it's an irrevocable trust with a third party operating it, your girlfriend can't come and stake claim on your trust. And like we said before, you get that girlfriend contract. Anytime she gives you money, it is allocated to services being provided to her, not equity stake in anything that you have. So if you're putting money into your trust, you're putting your money into your trust. She gives you money. Let's say she gives you $500 for some shit. She has to make sure that she's signing a contract that either this is a gift or that this is going towards the room and board of her staying in your house or the usage of your vehicle or something to that effect, that the money is going towards goods and services, not towards ownership of the mortgage on your house, not towards equity stake in your trust or anything to that effect, where she would be entitled to anything. And that's why when you ask me, can you have one trust or multiple trusts? It's better for you to have one trust for yourself, guaranteedly. Then if you want to do another trust with her, you can do a second trust with her where y'all can go half on this and put y'all's money up there into the trust and build the second trust the way you built the first trust, where your girlfriend contract is clearly indicates that if you're going to be the kind of person that says that I'm not going to disclose X, Y, and Z, your contract is going to say anything that is not disclosed in this document is not accessible to the parties. You can try that. Because when they say full disclosure, anything that's listed on here is subject to legal action. And if you leave something out in that situation, then they're going to be like, oh, he left this out, breach of contract. So you got to put that wording into the contract that makes it clear that if anything that's not listed here is not accessible to you, that you're agreeing that you're not going to hunt down anything that's not listed here, and then stuff that you don't want her to know about, you leave off of there. But you got to talk to your lawyers about the loopholes in that, because that's some stuff, that's some legal issues where if it's not in the contract, it's fair game kind of situation. You got to put the wording into the contract where she agrees that she's only in the scope of whatever's in this contract kind of situation, and she forfeits the right to seek anything that's not listed on this contract, right? But you got to work those things out. But if you get a trust with her and y'all are putting assets into the trust with her, some that are broke and greedy are going to want to liquidate the trust and get their half out of the trust. But if you have a contract with the trust, especially if you turn it into an irrevocable trust while y'all are still alive, you turn it into an irrevocable trust, and then you have a third-party trustee handling the shit, she's getting guaranteed distribution from the trust regardless of what happens. And in this particular position, that's like alimony. So she could be like, all the money I gave to this marriage, but the trust is paying you X number of dollars per month every month for the rest of your life. Most family court judges are going to be like, stop bitching. Quit your bitching, because you got a stable income coming from this relationship, where most women leave the relationship and try to clean the man out. You actually have a relationship where you have stable income coming from the relationship. When the relationship fails, stop bitching, right? Steven says, have a fleet of Forerunners and RAV4s, all 2015 and older. I mean, yeah, you can do that. You can do that, and then you can lease them to the business and use them however you please. You can have newer model vehicles if that's what you want to do. You can have a whole trust of just vehicles. When does the revocable trust become irrevocable? When the original person that is identified as the beneficiary or trustee of the trust dies. So the original person, so say for example, if Stephen created a trust for his dad is the original person on the trust. It's revocable while his dad is alive. And I told him to do something like this because it kind of helps him set up his own estate, makes him the successor beneficiary, even though his dad doesn't have anything. If everything he gets, he puts into this trust between now and the time his father dies. When his father dies, that trust becomes unchangeable, irrevocable. Now, at that point, whatever he built in that trust, that's what he has access to, the way he worded his ability to receive it. He can be the one that becomes the primary trustee over everything, or he can put a third party in there to take over when his father passes over. Either way, everything is being done the way it needed to be done based on Stephen setting up the criteria to his own personal satisfaction. Now, by doing that, all of the clauses on how to add stuff to the trust, like adding more houses, adding more cars, adding more money, can be put in there. Investment decisions, how to invest the stocks, just like I gave him the details on how to put the stuff into the brokerage account, then rebalance it, how to take a percentage of it out and use it for allocations for the receiver. But then when you think about if the trust is paying for things, if you're putting 50% back into the trust and you got 50% that you're going to allocate, you might need 30% to cover the overhead and then 20% to the beneficiary. If there's only one beneficiary, Steve is the beneficiary. If there's 100 grand there and out of that 100 grand, you're getting 20 grand, and out of that 20 grand, half of it's going back in, that's 10 grand. And out of the 10 grand, he's going to get 2 grand. You're going to think, oh, that's not a lot of money. But any house that he has that goes into that trust, paid for by the trust. Any cars that he has that's being maintenance by the trust is paid for by the trust. Any extra money that he gets that he puts into the trust, because as a grantor, you can put more money into the trust and increase the overhead of the trust. Well, increase the capitals of the trust in order for the trust to be able to pay for the overhead, right? Because the overhead is the cost. So you can add to the principal. And if you have a structure where any money coming in goes directly to X, Y, and Z stock, and the dividends from this stock and all other stocks gets distributed to X, Y, and Z stocks like this, where now you know this is how the structure is going to be, regardless of what the market looks like. Now you know that you're going to get X, Y, and Z dollars out of X, Y, and Z. Under the circumstances that any number of stocks fail where the stock is no longer accessible, any remaining capital is reallocated towards X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C. And you put that structure in there. That covers the majority of things. Again, just like we talked about yesterday, you're planning and preparing for anything that you can think of, but you can't think of everything possible, right? There's always an X factor or outlier that you weren't thinking about when you originally created it, which is why creating a revocable trust is best. Everything that you know directly impacts you today, you're going to put that into the revocable trust first. Everything else that happens in your life between now and the time that the trust becomes irrevocable, you can make those changes so that by the time it becomes irrevocable, all of the new stuff that you added in there fits in smoothly, and you can do whatever you want to do with it. You can borrow from it. You can add stuff to it. If you want to take stuff from it, but it requires for you to put that in the trust in a specific way so that when someone new comes and reads this paperwork, they know this applies, right? And you gotta organize it. Steven says, she will never know I have a trust. When I do, I don't have that kind of trust. Nice wordplay. I wouldn't tell her about the trust in the beginning of the relationship, but I would put in the girlfriend contract that we are exclusively bound to only what is listed in this contract, and we forfeit any undisclosed assets that are not identified in this contract, and we waive any legal right to seek any sort of ramifications or anything to that effect for any assets that are not disclosed on this contract. If you put something to the magnitude of that in your original girlfriend contract, you don't got to talk to her about the trust. You don't got to talk to her about the inheritance. You don't got to talk to her about all of these other things. That's none of her fucking business in the first 3 months of the relationship. But by the time you get to the prenup, if full disclosure is going to be required for the prenuptial agreement, at some point, you're going to have to talk about there is an existing trust that you can't touch. But you already have a contract that says when she gives me money, it's not for that, right? Because I know a lot of the times you spend all your money. Like, we got the women right now that swear to God, we're doing 50-50. She'll pay half of the bills for the majority control of her authority of the assets. You'll pay half of the bills, and the extra money that you have, you spend money on her. Well, divorce lawyers, separation lawyers, because she's paying half of the bill, she has 50% equity stake on everything that's not in the contract. So you got to make sure that you put it into the contract, and whatever's not in this contract, you waive the right to take action to collect. You have to, which means that if you're deliberately withholding something, I can't come get it from you. If I'm deliberately withholding something, you can't come get it from me. You have to cover your bases with these things, right? If you're dealing with certain situations where you've got like I said before, like if you're mortgaging a house, you got to know that you got to notate that money collected from her is for room and board specifically. That way, when there's a separation, the lawyer can't say, oh, she's been paying the mortgage for X, Y, and Z. Well, according to this contract, she was paying the rent, and the rent that she paid went to the mortgage. That she's paying for room and board. She wasn't paying for equity stake. Same thing with the car. She was leasing the car from her boyfriend. The money that she was giving her boyfriend was for usage and repairs for the vehicle, not for equity stake on a vehicle. Even if you ask her for $150 to cover the difference on a car note, You sign a contract that says, hey, you're supposed to lease this car from me for X number of dollars a month, and I need that money to cover the car bill because it's under contract, right? So until she gets you to sign a contract that says otherwise, having these contracts keeps your your assets secured. So you can keep the trust secret to a degree, but you also have to make sure that if you're going to keep the trust separate from the relationship, that the trust is a one-way street, meaning it pays you, you don't pay it. So you got this trust, it was built up, you get into the relationship with the girl, start up a whole other trust. The first trust that you built is a one direction situation. It's standalone, it does its own thing, it pays you money. Now, the new trust that you create with her, that's something y'all share. You don't got to tell her about the other trust that doesn't do anything because you don't put any money into that trust. So she can't say, oh, I gave him money and he put it into that trust. No, because that trust has never received capital. It is an outgoing machine. It only puts out, right? Is it a room and board? That's pretty clever. People don't think about these things. Special shout out to, I guess, God loves people. What's up, my man? He comes in every day and he's like, God loves you. Look, everybody who knew that God loved them should have behaved better. And everybody who didn't know, he just came in and made the announcement. Here's a fun fact though, because there are some God-fearing people that swear up and down that they walk the path of Christ, but they also put themselves in a position where they're not behaving Christly. Okay, the arbitrary God loves you position, it forces religion onto people in a discussion where religion isn't a topic. Because if you read any scripture, they've actually talked to you guys about the ability that God gave you, the strength and the wisdom and the capabilities and the free will to do what you need to do to survive. And then you choose to not survive, and then you choose to put all of your responsibility on a different entity. You want to blame your failures on the devil, and then you want to blame your blessings on God. Your failures are your bad decisions, and your successes are your good decisions, right? A miracle is your ability to take action when the probability of success is less than 1%. But you took action in a scenario where had you not taken action, you might not have survived. So my opinion on that is that you should probably put more faith in yourself, because in order for somebody to say that, we're going to go and get blessings from God by doing something for somebody else, in order for you to do something for somebody else, you had to have more. And in order for you to have more, you have to be pre-blessed, not post-blessed. And since society acts on I will receive more if I do for somebody else, they are doing for somebody else to get something in return, which means you're not acting on the good faith of the Lord, which is give for absolutely no reason other than the fact that you can, right? So there isn't a scripture in the Bible that says, give to other people. And you're going to ask me, well, what is my opinion on God? I don't have one. I have an opinion on how people represent God, and I have an opinion on how people force the religion on conversations that aren't religious. But I don't have an opinion on God himself, because at the end of the day, if I was given the strength and the willpower to perform, I'm gonna fucking perform. Siva said, I'm the type to act broke and see how people act. I've been broke before, so it's second nature to do. Well, I mean, yeah, you don't have to. So it's called being stealth wealthy, meaning that you don't show off your wealth for the sake of other people, to entertain other people, to make people like you simply because you have money. So acting broke or stealth wealth is the ability to not flaunt what you got. So you're not trying to talk to your new girlfriend about your trust and say, hey, we're going to do this relationship thing because I've got $200,000 in a trust. No, you're talking to this girl because you like her and you want to get to know her, and you're hoping that she likes you. So she doesn't need to know that you have money to know that she likes you. Because if she only likes you because she knows that you have money, she doesn't like you. She likes the money that you have. So that's one of the reasons why I tell you that if you structuralize it in a certain way, put as much as you can into it, leave it as a standalone entity, then when you're dating her, You create a trust with her. She knows about that trust, and then the other trust is off limits, right? How do you convince the girlfriend to sign the contract since to agree to equality and uniformity when you are going to be the one giving up 50% of your assets when she is walking into this relationship bringing nothing with her? Let's marinate on that for a second, Trader. 90% of relationships, maybe more, women date men that have more. So she can have an apartment, he can have an apartment. She's more often than not going to move in with him. She can have a job and he can have a job, but more women want the man to pay for everything. She can have her own car and he can have his own car, but she's probably going to want him to buy her a new car. She can have her own phone, he can have his own phone, and she's probably going to want him to buy her an upgraded phone. Throughout this relationship, the majority of stuff that is not her hair, her nails, and her vacations are paid by him. Even her vacations are going to be paid by him. A lot of the times, her hair, her nails, her eyelashes, her makeup, a lot of the times, her feminine anything else that requires financial. 51% of a man's income is going to go to the woman that he's dating. When they break up, she is going to want half of everything that is there. Granted, it's all yours. The house is yours, the car is yours, the garage with the furniture in the house, you bought everything that's in the house, the pictures on the wall, you bought everything. Even if she decorated the house and she went to IKEA and picked all of the stuff that she wanted from IKEA, you're the one that charged it at the register and had it shipped over to the house and built it at the house. So everything in the house you paid for. But because she went half on a light bill and she might have went half on the rent, he's entitled to half of all of the stuff you bought. Now, the question is, she came in this with nothing. The most she has given you is half of the primary bills and some good sex, which is room and board for her residency as a tenant, as a co-tenant in the apartment, and some good sex. That's all she's brought to this relationship, right? And she's going to get half of everything in the house. What sense does it make? Why are you convincing her to sign? Are you even going to date a woman that's not going to sign the contract? Because if she's not going to sign this one, you know she's not going to sign a prenup. He says, all right, man, well, yeah, I appreciate you. I'll pay for all the dates, but cars and bills and nails and her dad's bills, etc. That's on her. You say that, but if you're getting a Western woman, you're going to be in a situation where you're going to pay her bills, and she's going to take her bill money and put it on her hair and her nails. You're going to pay her bills, and she's going to take care of her dad. She's going to take care of her cousin. She's going to bail out Lil Ricky from jail. The less money she has to spend on her standard of living, because you're covering her standard of living, she gets to take her money and go and pay for things that you would not have paid for. She's only paying a maximum of 50% of the basic standard of living. And whatever she doesn't have to pay, she keeps that. You are paying for the standard of living and the dates and her gifts, and you're taking her trips. So whatever money you don't spend on the basic standard on her entertainment, men give up 51% of their income. Women benefit from 23% of the man's income. There is 18% of the man's income that is lost. And that 18% goes towards her luxury, because he loses 51% of his income to be in a relationship with her. She gains 23% of income to be in a relationship with him. There is a difference of 18% of his income that she doesn't benefit from because it is wasted on gifts, trips, quality time that's gotta cost money to entertain her. That's where the money is going. So if she ain't willing to pay a contract, bro, she ain't willing to sign a contract, we ain't gonna work out. Because if you went to the Philippines, they got marriage guarantee you to take care of her family. Decided that you wanted to take this woman, move her to America, and you needed to give her family $1,000 a month because that's what she was giving her family when she was taking care of her family, because they're family oriented, including their original family. You're now sending $1,000 a month to the Philippines to make sure her family got money because that's what y'all agreed to do. And she's supposed to be the best wife that you can get, right? And for the first 15 to 20 years, you're gonna make sure that that shit happens. Steven says, my boy Tyrone got out of jail and moved in with the chick and spent up all of his money on furniture for her, and she hit him with the "this ain't working out" line right after, and he had nowhere to go after that. Oh yeah, you got situations where a girl will break up with you right after you spent your last dollar, and then they'll put you out. Because when a woman removes herself from the relationship, it's long before she physically removes herself from the relationship. When the breakup is going to occur and how the breakup is going to occur. Some women want the breakup to occur in a situation where you act irrationally. They're going to do something to trigger your anger so that y'all can get into a fight so that she can say that this fight is why we broke up. Some women might try to piss you off in a way where you act violently so that she can say that your violent behavior is why we broke up. They're just trying to save face, but they're creating an out where their network doesn't shame them for walking out of a good relationship. She's going to say that you're not making enough money, that you're not doing enough contributions, blah, 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 blah. You might be having a hard time trying to find a job fresh out of jail, but you took every dollar that you had and put all the furniture in her house. She's not going to tell nobody that. All she's going to say is that he got out of jail and he did shit for me. So when you didn't finish buying all she paying for light, gas, water, and rent. One of her talking to her about, oh, he ain't shit. You fully furnished the house though. The nigga said, oh girl, you should just leave him. And right after you put the last payment on the last item in the house, I'm sorry, this isn't working out. And then she gonna put your ass right out with the clothes on your back. All the furniture that you bought, she keeps. Why? Because you didn't get that shit under contract. I ain't saying that all women are bad. I'm just saying that for men to be the one to lose more physical resources and assets, it makes more sense for the men to walk into that with a contract. Whenever you allow somebody to live in your house, you're going to have a renter's contract. Because if they're living in your house and you're paying a mortgage, it has to be understood that they're giving you money for the rent, not for the mortgage. So if you're dating someone, what's the difference? If you do an Airbnb, they're renting 3 nights in your house, right? So what's the difference between that and a relationship? You sleep with the person that's giving you money. A lot of women don't believe in true equality. They believe it only if it fits them. It's not true equality. It's never going to be true equality because they believe in the ability to have priority control over how things happen so that they can feel comfortable with the outcome since they made the decision. Then when shit hits the fan, they expect the man to do collateral damage and fix the fuck ups so that she don't have to deal with that part. So they're there for the authority, but they're not there for taking responsibility after the authority has been asserted. When the shit hits the fan and everything falls apart, it's his job to fix it. It's his job to pay for it. But you can't tell her what to do. This feminist model is not good for modern day relationships because since women do not respect men that don't have authority, she should not be in a relationship with a man if she's not to respect themselves enough to stand on non-negotiable expectations for behavior and dictate the fact that if this relationship is going to lead to you living in my house, everything in my house is mine, and we need to get this contract together before you move into my house, before the relationship progresses any further. Now, granted, he don't got to sign the contract, but the relationship stops there. Oh yeah, we can hang out. We can sleep around at your place. We can go out at your expense. We can go out for free. But until you sign that contract, our relationship stays at this phase. The non-committed phase, because when you commit, you sign that contract. Until you sign a contract, there is nothing to commit to, because this is a division of assets, which protects her and her assets, but it protects him and his assets. So he's her job. Just like Steven said, his friend fresh out of jail, she would want that fucking contract, because it's like, no, sir, you're not about to use up all my shit, and then we're gonna break up, and you're gonna take half of everything I paid for. So if that's how she would feel if the shoe was on the other foot, then why is it so taboo for a man to protect himself? Why is it just being cautious, or just being precautious, or just um um preserving your own estate when it's the woman doing it, but it's toxic and all of this other stuff when a man does it? At the end of the day, if it benefits her to protect her assets from a relationship where she's contributing the majority of the resources to the relationship, then it is equivalently respectable for her to sign that same kind of contract when she's not bringing as much as the other person. Now, if they're not willing to agree with that, then you got the wrong woman. You got a woman where you're willing this woman. So she, just like you get a free ride to college, you got a free ride through life in this relationship. All you got to do is sign a contract. Sign the contract and perform. And you're telling me she ain't gonna sign a contract? That means she don't want it. I agree with you. You cannot believe anybody these days, including your so-called friends, bro. Your friends are the worst ones, because your friends feel like we've been friends for so long that I'm entitled to fuck you over. You understand? I'll make it up to you on the flip side, and then the flip side don't ever come. Your friends will borrow something from you for so long that you got to borrow it back, because they've lost respect for you. With a stranger, they will borrow something from a stranger, and the stranger will be the first person they pay back. But with you, they'll borrow something from you, and then when they get a little extra money, they're going on vacation. No, bro, every time you get an extra dollar, you're supposed to cut me whatever you owe me. And then whenever you finish paying me back, then you go have you a good time. And you having a good time technically with my money, because I haven't gotten paid back yet. Even your relatives will rob you if you give them a chance. And that's the reason why I was telling you transfer on death at the beginning of the show, because if you have siblings, they will rob you too. That's the reason why they have probate, because the estate, even with a living will, the estate is assigning certain people to certain assets, and a lawyer is going to make sure that certain people get certain assets. So if there's cars in the yard and houses and this, that, and third, can't nobody run off with it and go do nothing with it, because according to this contract, you don't own that. The other person does. So bring it back in mint condition or pay for its repair, right? Same thing with transfers on death, TODs. If it's set up while the person is alive, that if anything happens, this house goes directly to the other person, even without a trust, even without a living, even without this, that, and the third. There's absolutely nothing that another person can do. Not an ex-wife, not a sister can show up out of nowhere and say, "Oh, you should just do for me because." No, according to this paperwork, the house goes to me. That's it. And once you do that, it's done. Nobody can like it. And the fact that the documentation is so finite, all you really need to do when the person dies is take the death certificate, go to the county's office, and then provide them with the death certificate and whatever trust documents that need to be provided, and pay the transfer fee. And the shit is transferred. By the time they bury the person in the ground, you should have already transferred ownership to another person. So there's nobody here to collect, because typically the funeral happens first, and then a few weeks later, then they start dividing assets. If the funeral happens and the assets were already transferred before the funeral happens, Because typically you can get the death certificate the day or the couple days after the person dies, and typically the funeral happens 3 days to a couple weeks after the person dies. So by the time they finish with the funeral and the wake, the assets have already been transferred, because you don't require the whole family to go down there with you to the county and go change it over. You do it yourself. You can't trust family. You can't trust your kids. You can't trust the elders. If you're taking care of the elders and you're controlling the elders' estate, then you have the control over what goes on, which prevents you from being screwed over. But if your elders are able-bodied and your elders are taking care of their own estate, you can't trust your elders to leave anything to you. You go there to a will to read the will, and your name ain't on it, and they brought you there just so that they can embarrass you in front of everybody else, and you ain't getting shit. I mean, they do that. They do that. People do that. And they just wanted to make a point beyond the grave that you didn't deserve anything from me because you didn't do what I told you to do. So everybody else who followed my instructions, let this be a lesson, right? Which also means that the rest of the instructions are not in this will that y'all better follow. Somebody is going to be the scapegoat. It always happens. All right. Now, we had some as the world turns style stuff going on. I want to go ahead and get into them. Let's go ahead and see what's going on today.
My best friend just ruined someone's marriage. My best friend just ruined someone's marriage.
Okay.
There is a family at her daughter's school that she met and started doing play dates with their kids about it. Let's call best friend Jada. Jada and the dad started doing more play dates together, which turned into them hanging out together alone. Hangouts turned into emotional cheating, which has left his wife devastated. She has been communicating that she is uncomfortable with this relationship, and already outed him for emotional cheating. Still, Jada pursues the relationship. They talk/text all day and flirt. Last night they went out for drinks and confessed love for each other. He went home and told his pregnant wife the truth. I'm so disappointed. Jada has gone through so much. Just got out of a terrible marriage. So maybe comforting for her right now. I've seen a lot of different takes on situations like this. The husband owes the wife loyalty, yes. But Jada had a major role in this happening. I don't know how, as a woman and as a mother, you could participate in a husband cheating on his pregnant wife. Their baby is due soon. WTF, man.
The old school modern day thinking is that the cheaters are the ones that are at fault because they cheated. But we have a lot of details here that nobody's paying attention to. Yes, the girl that engaged with the guy probably should not have let it progress knowing that he was already married. Yes, the guy in a relationship probably should not have ventured off with the other girl because he knew he was married. But we understand that what people ignore is that in a relationship, the things that are missing in a relationship, typically people try to find outside of the relationship. He was not getting the emotional attention from his wife, probably because she was having issues with the pregnancy that she could not handle, where she wasn't able to emotionally express herself with her husband the way she should have. Her failure to provide that emotional attention to her husband allowed for her husband to find emotional peace with somebody else. The woman that came out of the relationship, she had a bad divorce. She's rebounding. Plain and simple, she's rebounding. She's getting emotional validation from this guy. It's easy to mistake that as love. But the fact is that she has not learned how she failed her marriage. She has not grown from how she failed her marriage. He has not learned how he failed his marriage, and he has not grown from how he is failing his marriage. His wife has not paid attention to how she's failing her marriage and why her husband is leaving her for another woman. Now, what's going to does leave his pregnant wife for this new chick, that second relationship is going to fail. And the reason why it's going to fail is because the new girlfriend is going to be jealous of the baby mama. Baby mama's going to be calling all hours of the night and this, that, and the third because of the kids. Dude's going to have to leave his girlfriend's side and go to his ex's house all hours of the night and different days and weekends and interrupting entertainment time between the new girlfriend and the husband, and go back and go deal with his ex-wife, right? That's going to make the new girlfriend jealous. The new friend's jealousy is going to be projected as resentment. Any behavior that the new boyfriend is going to be projecting that is resembled to the ex-husband of the new girlfriend, Jada, is going to trigger flashbacks of trauma where she's going to now start behaving irresponsibly to the relationship with the new girl that he was in with his wife, because he's not getting the emotional attention that he would prefer, because the new girlfriend is jealous of the wife the same way the wife is jealous of the new girlfriend. All parties are not going to be satisfied for the outcome of this situation. What I believe is the best course of action is for the guy to be the bigger person and break off the relationship with the girl, go to couples therapy, work out the issues with his wife, and figure out why her attitude gets on his fucking nerves to the magnitude where he would prefer to be with another woman than be with the mother of his children. His wife should proactively funnel effort into that exact rectification, because part of the reason why he's going somewhere else is because he don't like the way she's behaving, and since he can't slap her in the mouth because she's pregnant, it's not supposed to slap her in the mouth if she wasn't, but he less can do that because she's pregnant. Instead, he just leave and go get what he needs from somebody else. Not a lot of people like this kind of response, but truth be told, it takes more than two people to fuck up a marriage. It takes at least two. The husband and the wife that's involved in the marriage is going to be the reason why the marriage fails. The extra person involved. Now, people are going to say, oh, the girl is a homewrecker. No. The home was wrecked before the girl showed up. It just so happens that she benefited from the wrecked home. That's like saying that, you know, you wreck cars on a regular basis. No, I just buy cars that are already wrecked. I just ride them until the wheels fall off. If the house was stable, there would not be an ability for anybody to conquer the house and take the queen's place. The house wasn't stable. And the house wasn't stable because the king and queen were fighting each other. There was a rebellion in the kingdom. And because there was a rebellion in the kingdom was able to be overthrown by another kingdom. That's going to be partially the wife's fault. And notice I said partially. So people are going to say, oh, well, the person being cheated on is a victim. No, the person being cheated on is part of the contribution. Because what you do or do not do that allows or causes your partner to stray away from the relationship is one of the reasons why your partner is straying away from the relationship. If you're not paying attention to your partner's needs, somebody else will. It doesn't matter if it's a male walking out on a relationship or a female walking out on a relationship. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, at the end of the day, this is a situation where they're going to go. Now, can this relationship be fixed? Yes. They have not expressed the physical connection, which doesn't really mean much. But without the physical connection, there is the ability to rebuild the emotional connection with the wife, because really he just has to get past the pregnant phase and the bottle feeding phase. But once he gets past that, this will be in their history where they're a lot more estrogen and not have the drive, where they're really only going to be there having a conversation with their wife. They're not going to have a mojo to gojo. Women are going to have a higher mojo than the men once they start crossing over 40, creeping into 50. They're going to be out there trying to swing on guys younger than them. So, I mean, really and truly, in a lot of relationships, while women are like, oh, it is what it is, it's like if she lets the affairs happen in the beginning of the relationship when he's got the mojo to make it work, and he allows the relationships on the back end of the relationship when he ain't got no mojo to make it work. I mean, they can just like kind of one for one, but I don't think scorecards are a necessity. I just think that there needs to be a lot more communication in the marriage. Now, let's try this next one. I think this next one's going to be the long one.
I messed up. My husband has canceled an upcoming trip because I couldn't control my reaction to disappointment. A lot of stress with work and planned this vacation months ago in hopes of having a break from life. Well, the stress of getting ready really got to me, and when I was trying to get things planned, a client of mine needed a crisis appointment. I work in social work. As I was driving there, I thought of all the things I needed to get done, including an oil change. I called a shop and scheduled an appointment. It's around 2 blocks from our house, so I thought if my husband picked me up while they were working on it, I could get more things done at home. So I called him to ask him to pick me up at the shop later that day, and he said no. It was a service that took less than an hour, and he felt it didn't warrant me needing to be picked up. I got upset and crashed out on him, saying I was unmotivated to prepare for the trip because of how overwhelmed I was and the fear that I'd have to do a lot of the mental load for the trip. Plus I had so many things to do before we left. Well, that didn't go well, and he decided he didn't want to go anymore because I threw a fit and didn't want to deal with it for 4 days and asked for space. He's pretty set on not going and does not engage with me at all since the argument. I'm spiraling a little bit because even though we're not going on vacation, we still have a week off together. I don't want to spend the week avoiding each other. I'm not sure what I need at this point, but I'm really blaming myself for this and feel there is no coming back.
Well, we had a okay. Let's make sure that we was
My spouse
we
has
good. Okay, hold on. I wasn't expecting all of that to go down. All right, so you acted ass on him, talking about some you was not gonna be around him for 4 days, and he canceled a fucking trip because you didn't have your way. He should not have canceled the trip. He should not have canceled the trip. What he should have done is gone on the trip without your ass and spent 7 days getting himself some peace from you. You believe that you got so many things going on, that you're so emotionally overwhelmed, you might need 7 days by yourself in the house dealing with your bullshit. Or bullshit. A lot of people are gonna hate the dialogue I put out. Be this: if you are supposed to be communicating with your partner, if your plan was to go to the shop, do X, Y, and Z, dropping off the car, come back and get it later, you communicated it with your boyfriend, he said no, it's not going to take that long, go ahead and take the car to the shop, do what you got to do, and then bring it back instead of having me come get you, and then I got to bring you back to the shop. She's not trying to get an Uber home. You understand how her decision burdened the husband or boyfriend to stop what he's doing and come and deal with her. Now, because he didn't do it, she blows up on him. That's not going to work. If her plan is that she's going to leave the car at the shop and then she's going to go home and take care of stuff and she's going to come back and get the car later before the shop closes, she can drop the car off first thing in the morning and she can catch an Uber back to the house, which will cost her an extra $20, and then she can catch an Uber back to the shop right before the shop closes, which will cost her an extra $20, where she just spent $50 on the convenience of not waiting when the shop first opens. You're likely to be in and out in less than a half hour. So the time it takes for him to stop what he's doing and drive to the place to come and get her and drive her home and drive her back, just to drive her home and drive her back, the car would be done. So he could just stay there and let the car get finished, pay for the car, and come on out of it, right? If it was going to be a multi-day thing, like you got to put it in the shop today and come and get it tomorrow kind of thing, yeah, I'll drop you drop off the car and I'll come get you. But it's an oil change. It's an oil change. And the only reason why it's taking so long is because you're bringing it in the afternoon. If you brought it in the morning, by the time you finish paying for it, the fucker's done. So having a temper tantrum because you didn't get your way, what we talked about the other day is that if we make plans and you act an ass, we cancel them plans. We was gonna go somewhere, but because you act an ass, we're not going nowhere. Accurately and respectfully. When you start wilding out, that's it. Wherever we were not gonna go. But in this situation, he still needs a break from her because she, after everything he has done for her with this trip, with this getaway, with all of this extra shit, some of this money he's not going to get back because he's made reservations and booked this and booked that. He's going to have to cancel all of this stuff. Now she's in a position where he's losing his money on the investment because of her fucked up behavior. She's like, oh, well, I don't know what to do. Well, the first thing you can do is apologize, but the apology is only going to go so far because I'm sorry doesn't actually fix the fuck up, right? But the next thing you can do is change your damn attitude and stop believing that you must get your way in order for you to be satisfied. If you don't have enough time to get certain things done, since you're going to spend an extra couple of hours at the mechanic shop, instead of negotiating him bringing you back to the house where he's then got to bring you back to the mechanic shop, which puts more of a burden on him to drive you back and forth, why don't you negotiate something else, like him help you pack or him help you organize some other things? Or why didn't y'all switch cars where he could have dropped the car off at the shop and just went to work and picked the car up after work where you didn't even have to leave the house? Like, there's a lot of things that could have been done that would have been less catastrophic for you getting what you but again, you're sitting over here thinking, well, you're stressed out because you've got unexpected clients. You're supposed to be on vacation and you're not able to deal with your vacation because you're dealing with clients that you should be able to tell them, I'm off. You're telling me they've got a crisis. I don't care. I care, but I don't, because at the end of the day, I still need my ability to decant from your crisis. You should be able to have set your voicemail on, I'm on vacation, leave a message, and if it's a medical emergency, dial 911, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And a week later, you turn your phone back on. So from the time you decided that you were leaving town till the day after you get back, you have your voicemail set up that I am not available until X, Y, and Z date, leave a message, and then turn your damn phone off. People are self-identified as their careers. So because you work in social work, you're going to run out there and go and play cat and save them for somebody. You're absorbing their stress from their chaotic life, but you just took their stress out on your husband or boyfriend. You value your job more than you value your relationship. You should have not even answered the phone and let that person understand that you're off and you'll get back to them when you get back, because your work-life balance needs to be fixed. Can this be fixed? Of course it can. But he gonna spend the next 7 days not wanting to be fucked around with you because you just fucked up the whole trip. So what you do is you cook him his favorite meal. You can give him some extra intimacy, because y'all not supposed to not be intimate with one another just because y'all mad at each other. But beyond that, leave him the fuck alone. With in the morning every day, talk to him in the morning every day anyway. Even if he don't acknowledge you, even if he grunts at you, acknowledge him every day when y'all wake up. Feed him 3 times a day while he's there. Give him the intimacy every night when y'all go to bed. Even if he's mad at you, behave as if he's not mad at you. Why? Because if you cut him off, that's going to make it worse. Eventually, he's going to forgive you for this because, I mean, he's been staying with you all this time. But you got to cut that bullshit out. Having temper tantrums because you don't get what you want is unacceptable. Fussing and cussing at your husband or your boyfriend because you don't get what you want is unacceptable. Shutting down emotionally and shutting down in communication because you mad at your boyfriend or your husband is unacceptable. You must be able to articulate and then negotiate. Even if you've got to walk away from the situation temporarily for a few minutes, not a few days, not a few weeks, and breathe and remove your emotions from the situation and go back and talk to your partner logically about it, that's what you do. But to hit your customer, your partner, because your customer is more important in a relationship, and now that you're overwhelmed, customers need you. So the time that you spend to save a hole in your customer is the reason why you don't have enough time to pack and prepare to leave. That's the biggest issue here, because you went to work instead of packing to leave. That's the reason why you don't got enough time to stay at the damn mechanic shop, get the oil changed, and bring your ass back to the house. But if your car is not the car that is going on the road trip, why the fuck can't the oil change wait until your ass get back? So I'm just saying, like, you just had bad time. All right, let's go ahead and touch base with the next one. I thought that one was a long one. There is so much lag today. I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
Been having an affair, and our wedding is in 4 months. Well, this sucks. My fiancée, who is 28, has admitted to an emotional affair with her coworker after she was caught by me sending inappropriate Snapchat photos and deleting chats. I am 27. Little backstory. Together for 9 years. At start of the relationship, after 6 months, she left me for another guy because I was insecure she was going to leave me. She then did leave me. Then she came back a month later because I have security. Throughout the years, I have unfortunately not been completely satisfied by her emotionally. I also had a looming insecurity that she of course loved me, but did not like me. I needed her to provide evidence that she likes me, and she was very poor at expressing that. I had a hard time deciphering whether it was because of her character, and she was just not capable, or it's because she truly didn't like me. I am emotionally draining and require a lot of attention. Over the years, I have used other sources in a community to get attention, but I definitely relied on her a lot. I had a hard time making easy time making girlfriends as I am approachable and not threatening. I would often consider I have a greater emotional connection with her few girlfriends than she does. This led to me creating a great best friend dynamic with a woman for 7-ish years. She was a genuine best friend. The dynamic turned into an emotional affair at the 6.5 to 7-year mark, as I was utilizing this friend in the fall of 2024 to fulfill aspects in my life that my partner did not fulfill. Looking for compliments, the whole, I wish my partner did this. Oh, I would never do that, blah blah blah. She was married and would use me as a tool for emotional validation her husband didn't give her. He was working hard to create a business to give her a family, and because he was always gone, she would use me. I thought this was terribly wrong of her to not be able to love her husband, who is shaping his life, to provide for her. Through counseling, she realized she was wrong too. I realized it had gone too far and became it is inappropriate after I told my partner that I truly don't look at her as a best friend because, and I've been using this other woman to fulfill roles inappropriately. That happened as they all do, as my partner was seeing my excitement to talk to my friend, and it was obvious. And that's when I had to put on my big boy pants and make a decision on how to successfully pursue my relationship and not use others to fulfill roles that I wish my partner filled. With that past behind us, I proposed the next year, and things were not great. She was depressed and emotionally drained from her blue-collar pipe-fitting job, and one of her mentally abusive coworkers sucked the life out of her. Me and my partner's sister would work together on trying to understand what was going on with my partner and why she was so drained. She began therapy, and I gave her many opportunities to pursue occupational counseling to help her find a career. This was hurting our relationship, as she was not interested in me at this time, and there would be periods where we would go months without sex or intimacy. I told her at times it felt like I just had a roommate, and that she needs to fulfill romantic roles. She was tired all the time. I would use this as fuel to better myself and make myself the best person I could possibly be for myself and for her. This past fall, things reached a head at her work to where she was calling out and crying because she didn't want to go in and didn't know what to do with herself when she stayed home. I hated the principle of this, but hated to see her suffer, so I allowed it. I ended up going to her very involved parents. I look at them as parents and mentors. She does. While she was on her bachelorette trip at work and what we could do to solve it. I wanted to help her, but you can't lead a horse to water and make it drink. Her parents never got involved, as I think there was a masking of shame around the whole scenario, and I ended up writing out a text for my partner to her boss that she send that would change her role in the company. She then began to work with this coworker. This coworker and her had unfortunately has had inappropriate behavior towards each other for a few years. I've confronted both of them 3 times about it in the past few years, as he was also my friend. They became close partners, boss/worker dynamic. She got into weightlifting and the hobbies he had and his mannerisms, and I was worried because of previous issues, but was happy that she was happy. She was overall happy at her work and happier at home, and I was ecstatic. Yes, my girl is happy, and things are great. Now she won't be tired, and I can get the emotional connection I desire. Issues solved never came. All the energy got focused into her coworker. I became jealous and addressed it. I told her that the emotional connection her and her coworker had is what I am looking for. Things got worse, and I was eventually hurt. It then became, hey, the emotional capacity you say you don't have because you're tired is 100% going into your coworker. This is not appropriate. I'd like it to stop. After 4 warnings, and me seeing that messages are deleted and trust is broken, it was time for couples therapy. First therapist we had was disconnected and said I should be medicated for ADHD and OCD. Not the route I was looking for. We went camping, and it was first trip ever that she had planned completely rather than me. It was great. I felt love and genuine connection. I get back, leave to go buy a truck. She sends me images of herself nude in the shower and in front of a mirror. For images in a 25-minute time span. This is the second time ever she's taken nude images of herself and sent them to me. I never had Snapchat because I called it a sexting app, and she felt weird sending them on iMessage. The first time in our 9-year relationship was last week when I was at work. The second time was yesterday. My first through was, why does she have her phone on the shower? I get home, we go to a friend gathering. I check her phone conversation on Snapchat with her coworker during the time period she sent me the 4 images. 25 plus Snapchats during the time period. Lots of deleted chats, etc., etc. I wait until we're home, confront her calmly, and make sure she feels safe in the environment to be transparent. She admits to the emotional affair. I know exactly why it happens. I'm not stupid. I saw it coming a mile ahead. It just sucks it happened after such a good weekend. Her reasoning is that she doesn't feel connected to me, and the wedding is stressing her how. She hates how all I talk about is buying my business. She hates how last year I was not ready for a kid because of my employment and financial situation, and I wanted to wait until after we were married. However, after I spoke to some friends about how they started a business and had a kid, that gave me the confidence to pursue it. That turned my whole life into, right now, working as hard as I can to be a successful business owner and doing everything I can to allow her to pursue a part-time career of her choice, so she can be the mom she wants to be. I want to be an amazing provider and husband, and I am driven by the idea of creating a wonderful family. Her coworker had a kid with some random girl and resents her. The baby is adorable, and my fiancé adores the baby. The whole misery brings company dynamic happened because he hates his baby mother and wishes he could have a stepmom like my partner. My fiancé really enjoyed that role, that she was wanted and desired as a mom by her coworker. She also works with him every day, sends dumb memes not stop to on social media, because I don't have any, and she's borderline addicted, likes how he dresses and how he's a weightlifter, and has made comments about how she wishes my chest was like his, has even tried to give me hand-me-down shirts from delusional how disrespectful that was, etc., etc. After confrontation, she felt awful and shameful. She denied sending him nude images throughout their relationship, but admitted that she was seeking attention inappropriately. I don't believe her completely, and she understands. I asked her to leave for a week and find a place to stay at a friend/family's so she can decide what she truly wants. She refuses. She doesn't have a lot of friends. Her parents love me, and she couldn't bring herself to begin to explain the shame of the situation and the pressure of what this will do to the wedding. With nowhere to go, I understand and let her stay. We talk more about her feelings, and mine have been laid out transparently for her to see in many long talks and writings I have given her to show full transparency. She gives me some information on how she's feeling, which just confirms things I understood and obviously saw, such as her not being attracted to me and her forcing herself to do so, but can't and doesn't know why. I know why. It's just she doesn't like who I am. She says I'm too smart for her, and we're on different levels. She said her dumb pipe fitter coworkers are easier to talk to, and conversation with me is a lot. She tries to coerce me to have intercourse with her. I put it off for 1.5 hours, and she isn't going to let it up or go to bed until I give in. I gave in because I was ready for the day to be over. It was emotionless and did not feel right. She finished and went to bed finally. This morning, I write this and use stupid ChatGPT to help me find a solution. I would like some advice on how this can go, and if this is solvable. I love her and know she loves me, but truly I feel like she does not like me. I own a house, and living in it while I pay most the bills is her best situation as a woman. I don't want to start over, but I understand the facts of what has happened and think this may be doomed. I will try another couples counselor, but I don't think this will change the fact if she genuinely lacks interest for the majority of the relationship. We make good roommates. We're a kick-ass team, but she has not shown me the ability to provide secure romantic interest. What do you think? Any feedback is welcome. I will need to be making a decision.
Okay. You answered your own question. Y'all are in a relationship of convenience. You have the stability that she's looking for. That's why she went back to you after she had the thrill with the other guy. He said this guy's smarter than her. That's what she says, but he's not that smart because he's not paying attention. The first 7 years of their 9-year relationship, he was having an emotional affair with somebody else who was married. Uh, he stopped that. Emotional relationship with each other. He's now jealous of her emotional relationship with somebody else because she's giving this other guy what she would never give to him over the last 9 years. But they're engaged. What you're getting before the marriage is what you're going to get after the marriage. Now, the problem is that like he told her to go stay somewhere else for the week. She's going to make it seem like it's impossible. You was living with your fucking mama before I met you. You can go back and live with your fucking mama for 7 days. You don't want to go live with your fucking mama because you don't want your mama to find out that you was out there hoeing around on social media, and that's why your fiance don't want to fuck with you no more. So now you're going to try to pretend like everything is okay when it's not. Me, I would have came and asked mama to come get her so that I could have some peace to rethink this situation, because at this point, the wedding is not going to happen. You've out of 9 years, he spent 7 years with someone else emotionally, and the last 2 years she spent emotionally with someone else. So out of the last 9 years, they have not expressed emotion to each other. Physical connection, yeah. Financial stability, yeah. Building an empire as buddies and partners, yeah. As he said, it could be a kick-ass team if you work and I work and we save money on buying things and paying for stuff because we're pooling our money together, relationship of convenience, and now we're going to use that money to build ourselves up. She wants a family. You're not really able to give it to her because you're going to be focusing on work. This other guy, he's over here emotionally dating, has a kid that she can just be the stepmom to, so she doesn't have to give birth to a child. She can just pretend like she's the other kid's mom. At the end of the day, that's convenient to a degree, but the problem is that eventually she's going to want to have her own kids. And she could have her own kids with the other guy who's got an illegitimate child, but that's always going to be a problem because the baby mama is going to superimpose herself into his life when she sees him happy with another woman. And all of a sudden, all of these problems and complaints and everything is going to start coming from the baby mama, because what women don't like is when their ex is happy with someone else. So what they will do is, since she's not happy, she will make sure that he's not happy by ruining his next relationship, especially if she doesn't have a relationship to prioritize. It is what it is. That's usually what happens. Wow. This relationship, being a relationship of convenience, is not worth marrying into, especially since he owns a house. They don't have any contractual division there. So her living in the house for the last 9 years and putting money towards things would allow her to have equity stake in his house. So while he owns his house, she owns half of it. So when she leaves, and then some states have common law marriage after 10 years. So even if they don't get married, they have been in the same place come 10 years where she still is entitled to half of his entire estate. So if she left, family court, she could take half of his shit. And they never had a relationship. They were just roommates. And ultimately, there were roommates that actually did have some intimacy along the way. So it was a tough marriage or a tough relationship. But that situationship that they had entitles her, even though she had nothing but the clothes on her back, because she put money towards the bills, she's entitled to half the house and half the car. This is a perfect example. I tell you guys, get that kind of bullshit for the next 25, 30 years, whether she's cheating on him emotionally or just outright cheating on him. If he doesn't put up with that bullshit, they're going to get a divorce. Anything after 10 years, depending on what state you're in, whether they get married or not, they're going to have to go through the divorce process because it's a division of estate. It's a division of assets. But if they get married, it's going to be more so of a division of assets because it's going to be a marriage without a prenup. And that's going to mean that she's entitled to everything or half of everything if kids end up being involved at some point, because she's going to do some shit. There's a lot of women that do this, and not all women do this, but there are a lot of women that do this, is that if she cheated on him with somebody else, she will insist on sleeping with him so that when she comes back pregnant, she can tell you that it's yours. There are some women that do this. They be trying to sleep with athletes and rich people and everything like that so that they can get pregnant for that person and get the child support money. If y'all are not able to give each other what y'all need, y'all need to decide on how y'all are. For another, she didn't like you, and then she came back to you because you had the financial stability. And now 9 years later, your relationship is just as bad as it was when y'all first got back together, because y'all broke up because there was a problem with your ability to have an emotional connection. After y'all broke up, y'all didn't fix that. Y'all got back together and wasted 9 years not fixing that because it was financially convenient. You spend less money on things around the house. She spends less money on the fact that you can cover 90% of her shit. She has less responsibility. You have more financial income. It's a relationship out of convenience. Y'all are roommates with benefits. Roommates with benefits. Turn off that marriage. Don't marry the girl. She's not wife material, right? If she can't give you the emotional attention that a wife is supposed to give a husband, she's not wife material. So at the end of the day, you need to let everybody else know that this wedding is not going to happen. You need to take the engagement ring back to the store and get your money back off of it and put it somewhere else. And just do the roommate thing. That's the best thing for y'all. Because when she gets truly involved with someone else and she voluntarily leaves with the clothes on her back to go live with somebody else, that is going to be the safest division of assets that you're going to have. Because if she leaves out of anger and frustration, not leaving out of happiness with somebody else, if she leaves from anger and frustration, her goal is to destroy you and take as much as she can on her way out. But if she leaves because she found love and happiness with somebody else, she's only going to take what she can carry, and she's going to go over there and live happily ever after, because who gives a fuck about you? But if you and her have a negative falling out and she leaves with spite and resentment and revenge and retaliation involved in that type of departure, oh, she's going to try to take everything. Everything that she can carry, everything her homegirls can carry, everything her sister, her mom, and them can carry. And she's going to paint the picture to her network that you ain't shit, so that they can help her clean you out. So at the end of the day, this isn't good for you, buddy. All right, let's touch base with the next one. Make sure y'all like and subscribe.
I don't know what to do with my girlfriend after a big mistake. Please excuse any awkward wording. I'm pretty overwhelmed right now. My girlfriend and I have been doing great. I genuinely thought we were meant for each other. We are both 21. She's had heavily abusive and cheating boyfriends in the past and has a lot of trauma from those relationships. One of the things she always told me was how grateful she was to finally find someone she could trust and who treated her well. Now for the story. Soon after we started dating, I met someone through a video game. The game is heavily male-dominated, so I just assumed this person was a guy. Because of that, I talk to them the same way I talk to a lot of my guy friends. My humor can be pretty crude and explicit at times, and that's unfortunately just how a lot of my gaming friend groups joke around. Later on, I found out this person was actually a girl. Looking back, that should have been the point where I immediately changed how I interacted with her or stopped the jokes altogether. But I didn't. I want to be clear about something. I had absolutely zero romantic interest in this girl. I wasn't attracted to her. I wasn't pursuing her, and I never had any intention of doing anything with her. I was completely committed to my girlfriend. The reason I didn't stop wasn't because I wanted attention or because I secretly liked this girl. The truth is that I genuinely didn't realize the boundary I was crossing at the time. I was still interacting the same way I always had before I got into a relationship, and for some reason I didn't stop and think about how different it was once I knew she was a girl. The jokes were still jokes, but they could get pretty explicit. Looking back now, I understand why that would be inappropriate. For around 2 or 3 weeks, we would occasionally play together and do game content. We weren't especially close, and eventually we naturally started talking less because I got busy and things faded out. Then, about a week later, everything suddenly hit me. I realized I had never mentioned that I had a girlfriend. Not because I wanted to appear available, but because by that point I already knew I had messed up and I didn't want to have an awkward conversation explaining why I had been making those jokes while in a relationship. Instead of handling it properly, I avoided it entirely. I basically ghosted everyone and cut contact. Once I realized I completely panicked. I suddenly realized everything at once. I realized how bad the situation looked, how much it could hurt my girlfriend, and how much I regretted letting it happen in the first place. I immediately cut off all contact with the girl. Since then, I've been having what feels like a complete mental breakdown. I know I'm responsible for my actions. I'm not trying to dodge accountability. I just genuinely had no intentions with this girl whatsoever. And that's part of why I'm struggling so much to understand how I let myself cross a boundary that now seems so obvious. The worst part is that I know if my girlfriend saw those messages, she would at the very least be hurt by them. For the last 2 days, every time I hear her laugh, call me sweet names, or talk about our crying, I feel like I did something incredibly stupid that I didn't fully understand in the moment, and now it could jeopardize everything. I haven't been eating. I haven't been sleeping. I can barely get out of bed. I haven't been socializing. I've basically spent the last 2 days talking to ChatGPT and one trusted friend while desperately trying to understand why I didn't recognize how wrong this was sooner. I genuinely feel like I'm losing my mind. I don't know if I should tell her. Part of me feels like I should because I value honesty and transparency. Another part of me feels like I've learned the lesson completely, cut off the friendship, and know with absolute certainty that I would never repeat this mistake again. At the same time, I don't want our relationship to feel like it's built on something hidden if she would want to know about it. What makes this so painful is that outside of this issue, our relationship has been amazing. We almost never fight. If we disagree, we talk things through calmly. We're compatible emotionally, physically, and in our long-term goals. We both regularly talk about how perfect the relationship feels and how much we love each other. That's what hurts the most. Still don't know what to do. Upvote 2, downvote, go to comments.
Okay, so first thing we're going to start by
Feels like
saying, man, I am going to have to switch from 1080p and go back down to 720p because there's too many drop frames today. This is some bullshit. That's the first problem that I got. Second thing is that I don't see what you did wrong. It seems to me like you are just feeling guilty for the sake of feeling guilty. The fact is that you're playing video games with people, and the banter that you was having on the game is the same banter that you would have with dudes. We should not have gender biased behavior where you're only allowed to behave a certain way with a certain gender. But we do. Understandably, once you found out that this character was a female, for some reason you continued the banter because you had no intentions towards the person. I think where this started to change is that your back went from normal gamer banter to flirting because you actually started developing psychological and emotional interest in following through with the banter. So you might have made explicit comments about the things you would do and how you would do it to the person, and that's the how do we call that, bromance dialogue that guys would have on the game. And it means nothing when it's two guys saying it, but it means a lot when there's a guy and a girl saying it. One of them's actually considering following through on that. So once your situation changed where you started articulating certain interests, that's when you retreated from the scenario. Now, do I believe that full transparency you should go and tell your girlfriend or your wife about? If you had the type of relationship that truly carried no resentment, no judgment, and no retaliation, and you had that conversation where you openly said, hey, I was playing such and such a game for the last few weeks there, with the name X, Y, and Z player name. And then I found out that that was a dude, and the stuff that I used to tell that when I thought it was a dude is now I feel weird about it when I found out that they were a girl, but I found out they were a girl after I was saying what I was saying, and then I felt guilty, and then I just stopped talking to them and da 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 da. But we never went beyond that. We weren't exchanging phone numbers and meeting up anywhere or connecting online off of the game. It was just what happened during normal gameplay. Now, recognizing that you withdrew from the situation once you clearly recognize that things were wrong shows some type of moral compass. But the problem that you're going to experience with that is that even if she doesn't do anything to you about the knowledge, every time you get on the game, she's always going to have this thought process that one of the players on the game is a chick that you're talking to, which means that you're going to have a strictly PG dialogue with everybody on the game. She's probably going to want to start monitoring the games that you play because of the insecurity of finding out that you almost hooked up with a chick on the video games. So it could start more problems than it fixes. If you don't have a non-resentment, non-judgment, non-relationship, as soon as you on a game console that you never had the opportunity to see in person, and you even disconnected that communication, no matter how long that communication was, that is going to be ammunition for emotional abuse for an extended period of time. She's going to be so hurt. She's going to be so devastated. She's going to be sick to her stomach. She's going to cut off all emotional connection with you. She might even cut off physical connection with you. She's going to punish you for the knowledge that you stumbled into something that you recognized was wrong and you didn't pursue it, and you even cut it off to make sure that it would negatively impact your relationship. The fact that you stumbled into it, she's going to punish you for that. And as a result, I wouldn't say shit. You realize what happened? You cut it off. This is going to be a twofold resolution. One, you're not going to do it again. And two, because you understand how easily it was that you did it, if you find out that your partner did it, you're going to give a little bit of play to say, hey, you recognize what you were doing was wrong. You cut that shit deep. We're all right. But if you carry this further than what I would have carried this, and you didn't stop it before it got too deep, we're still going to have a problem. Because at the end of the day, while I understand that you can formulate an attachment, an emotional attachment with another person via social media accidentally, because in all honesty, you can truthfully fall in love 150 times in a lifetime. And with the ability to connect to billions of people around the world, that 150 can happen on average about 3 times a year. And 2 of those people can be online. You can have love for your wife and be in love with somebody else, right? If your wife is one of 150 people that you have love for, that's 149 other people that you got love for. You can only be deeply in love with one of them at a time, but you can have love for a lot of people at the same time, right? And then anything beyond that, you're going to be emotionally dead. But the fact is that if you recognize that this is a thing, if she understands, let's back down from it. You, man, I went through that once before, not man. If he decides to come and confess to you some shit, you just understand it. Okay, cool. She's going to look at you as the very understanding boyfriend. No, you're not a very understanding boyfriend. You knew when you did this, you knew how you felt. And for her to come and confess to you, you know how she felt, because she probably felt worse than you because she had to tell you to alleviate her guilt. You didn't have to say shit to alleviate your guilt. You just stopped. So at the end of the day, you can quit playing video games, or you can quit having PG conversations online, since you can't guarantee that the people that you're playing online with are not female. That's kind of the best thing for you. All right, let's try another one. We got a 1 or 2 more.
Mini psychosis at this point, honestly. I made a mistake and slept with someone I've known 2 decades. Someone who I have been fond of and felt warm and fuzzy in a platonic sense about for a long time. Started to realize I had a little crush, and after some substances, plural, we slept together multiple times in a night. He is currently involved with someone, And I feel like an absolute demon for inserting myself in that. On top of that, I am now practically physically sick over this guy. I cannot stop thinking about him. Because I've known him since I was a teenager, and he represents a lot of good times and memories and is deeply woven into many parts of my history. He is, as he should, keeping appropriate distance and not pursuing anything further. Logically, I know this makes total sense. Emotionally, I am in pieces. I've been like this about people before, but this feels more severe than usual. 1,467 tarot card draws later, 865 text exchange analyses later, 500 hours of boring friends about it. I need this to shift. I am also just very scared that I've ruined the friendship forever, which is probably the biggest pain of all. I also just feel embarrassed, like I made a fool of myself. I made a mistake. I'm not proud of my choices, but I need a lifeline here. I am literally drowning in this. Meanwhile, he is living his life somewhat normal, a lot more detached than I am. I leave the country shortly, so I won't see him for a long time, and hadn't seen him for several years before this as I've been out of the country already. How can I stop feeling so sick over this? It's been the worst limerence experience of my life. I feel like I need him, EW I know, and want him to need me too. I thought this shit got better as you got older and wiser, but I guess I'm just not quite grown up enough. How do I move on and forget about him?
You said limerence. That's a big word for you. Fell in love with him. You wasn't intending on that, and then you don't want to act on those feelings. um, the fact is, you've known him for 20 years, and you've known him since you were a teenager. So whether that's 15, 16, 17 years old, you know him for 20. Dude has been waiting for his chance to shoot his shot. So while you claim that he's keeping his distance, y'all met up some time after you got grown, and he wanted to smash. He's been wanting to smash for a while. He's been hanging around you for 20 years, waiting for his shot to smash. You have considered smashing for a while. You lowered your inhibitions through all the substances that you had, whether it was several shots or anything to that effect. Special shout out to IP8. Whether it was several shots, whether you guys did something else or dove into some other things in addition to whatever it is that you was. But basically, you grew the courage to sleep with the dude, but you knew the dude for 20 years. You probably been wanting to sleep with him for the last 10, and that's one of the reasons why you did it. Because people blame, like, the whole premise of assault claims is that no matter how intoxicated you are, if you didn't want to do it, you didn't want to do it. No doesn't become yes simply because you're fucked up. You wanted to do it before you got fucked up, and you got fucked up because now that I'm fucked up, I can use this as an excuse to not be judged by society. So now I can do the things that I otherwise would not have done had I not had a crutch. It's a social crutch to get wasted and then go and get laid with somebody that I probably would not get laid sober. Right? So you regret what you did because you're really regretting what you did because of how your social network would see the two of you sleeping together. You, especially if this is a mentor that you've known since you were a teenager, where you've known each other for 4 to 6 years before you were an adult. This was like your childhood mentor kind of thing, and now it's your adulthood fling. You're concerned more, you're more afraid and anxious, and that's where the nausea in your stomach and everything come from. Oh, anytime after 18 years of age, I mean, you're fair game, so nobody's gonna really give a shit. You're the only person that cares. He got what he wanted, so he doesn't care, right? If you guys have that much of an emotional attachment to one another, the relationship that he's in has nothing to do with his physical connection with you. But if he does have a strong emotional connection with you, he's likely to drop the girl that he's with and get with you. But he couldn't get with you before because you were off limits when you weren't old enough. And then when you were old enough and you were out of the country, he had no access to you. Now that you're here, he can smash you probably on a regular basis because you're like, oh, yeah, we did it multiple times. Right. So if you want to say that the first time that y'all did it was allegedly an accident, the second, third, and fourth time, you were like, yeah, the sex was good. Let's do this again. Let's do this again. Let's do this again. Right. Which also means that it wasn't an accident. By the time the night was over, the second, third, and fifth time that you guys knocked boots, that was intentional. That was intentional. So you have to accept the fact that this is something that you wanted to do. Now, how do you get over him? You don't. But how do you move on past the engagement? Redirect your attention from guilt to success. You continue working on whatever it was you were working on. You made this what you would call a mistake, but I would call this like a prophecy fulfilled. And then once you have moved on from this situation by focusing on accomplishing other goals and knocking out certain tasks and chores, if you're going to get into a better relationship with somebody else, then you get into a better relationship with somebody else. Odds are part of one of the reasons why you did this was because you were rebounding from a bad relationship. The next relationship just don't allow that to be the catalyst of the foundation of the relationship. Men and women alike have to be careful with who they affiliate with, because you have to recognize that men do not have long-term relationships with adult women that they don't want to sleep with. So whether you're a 4, whether you're a 6, whether you're a 10, if you've got a guy that is a male best friend, he wants to tap that. And until you let him do it, he's going to linger. Even if he's got a girlfriend, even if he's got a wife, he is your male best friend for his turn. If he didn't want to sleep with you anymore, or if he slept with has passed, you will find that it is easy for him to disappear out of your life because he no longer has the interest of the physical connection with you, which ultimately means that the only leverage you have to all of the male best friends that you have is the fact that you haven't slept with them yet. And some of them, if the sex was good, are waiting for the second and third time that they can sleep with you, friends with benefits, consistent sex partners. But you're not relationship material. Y'all do not have the foundation of emotional connection and bonding and similar life goals where y'all can build a future together. Y'all can hook up short-term gratification, but you're not able to build something long-term satisfaction, which means that any relationship that you involve yourself with emotionally, actually, you're in a position where you guys are not going to, you're going to be roommates that consistently have sex together, like 3 is company. And that's kind of the way it is. Y'all live together and occasionally switch rooms and hook up with one another, but you're not actually in a real relationship. You guys just situationally hook up. That's kind of how culture has become in 2026, because nobody can afford to live on their own. So people definitely, more often than not, connect with other people physically and emotionally. And when you're not smashing one another, y'all live in the same house and pool your money together so that y'all can afford to pay the rent. Because the rent costs 2 or 3 times more than your paycheck. You either need a second or third job, or you need a second or third person to be able to maintain this address. Since that's the dynamic that we have in Western culture, a lot of people are in relationships that they don't belong in because they're relationships of convenience. Then the partner that you're with, that you're deals with and everything's done on time, not being the partner that you want, when you don't have the emotional attachment in this relationship, but it is convenient. You always know where your partner's going to be at, so you always have somebody at home to you. You always have that capabilities of getting some type of emotional connection and some type of physical connection, even if it's not consistent. But what you really wanted in life, you don't have. So when you find that outside of your house, that's where you start cheating on your girlfriend, cheating on your boyfriend, cheating on your husband, cheating on your wife, because what you started with was a relationship of convenience. You had that relationship of convenience for too long. Then you got married because you were socially pressured to do so. Because if y'all been dating for 5 or 7 years, why not get married? Because a marriage lasts 10 years before divorce. So if y'all been dating for 5 years, y'all should be able to stay married for 5 more years. But that doesn't mean that y'all belong together. It just means that you're capable of existing in the same place at the same time and pay the bills on time. That's what that means. It doesn't mean that y'all belong together. Right? So if you're not 100% in this relationship before the marriage, you're not 100% in this relationship after the marriage, because a marriage doesn't change who you are. It just changes your tax status. It doesn't change who you are in religion. It just changes your social identification. So ultimately, the marriage does nothing for the relationship. Look at the guy who was dating a girl for 9 years and then proposed after 7 years of cheating on her. Did proposing fix the relationship? No. She just started cheating on him for 2 years. So after 7 years of him cheating, if she cheats for 2 more years, they'll be together for 14 years and probably married for 6 of that. And they would have been cheating the entire time. The relationship is not beneficial. It is a relationship of convenience. So what you have to recognize is that if you are not getting what you want to get from your partner before the marriage, don't marry them. And if you're to give to your partner what they want or need before the marriage, they shouldn't marry you. Plain and simple. You should not get married because you got pregnant. You shouldn't get married because y'all been living together for 9 years. You shouldn't get married because y'all been in a relationship for a certain number of years. You are supposed to be able to guarantee the rest of our life, which should be at least another 20 to 30 years. And if you don't have 20 to 30 years of dedication in you, there is no reason why you should be married today. Because again, with all the contracts that we talked about on this show, y'all could live together and have a relationship contract, have a mutual agreement kind of contract, a division of assets that is treated exactly like a marriage. Common law marriage kicks in after 10 years, and y'all are going to have to go to family court and do a division of assets anyway if y'all move out with one another. And if you have a contract that says you get this and I get that, we don't need to go to court and spend $500 plus attorney fees to divide up the assets. We already agreed. So once we separate, you take what you said you was going to take. I take what I said I was going to take. We sell whatever we agreed we were going to sell if it's still here, and we part ways. Save you some money on attorney fees. But if you're going to keep leaving everything to chance, assuming that the happily ever after will come, it never comes. The happily ever after never comes. And the reason why the happily ever after never comes is because in fairy tales, the happily ever after is over. There's never a relationship that starts happy, stays happy, and forever after is happy. It started all right, chaos happened, and after that, everything went back to normal. That's the happily ever after. We're no longer in conflict after that, but we had conflict before that. So to believe that, well, we're going to get through it. It's been 9 years. If you've had 9 years of chaos, my dude, that means you're looking at another 9 years of chaos after the marriage. If you're doing couples therapy for 9 years before you get married, you're going to be doing couples therapy for 10 more years after you get married. You're going to be 18 years together in couples therapy. Just because y'all ain't actually physically had an affair with somebody yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. If y'all have children, your children are not going to know what a loving family looks like because y'all don't even have an emotional attachment for each other. So you're going to be staying together for the sake of the kids. You never stay together for the sake of the kids because that is an emotionally unhealthy environment. The children don't know what love looks like because I ain't never seen mom and dad express love for one another. And that's going to lead to somebody being emotionally dead when they get older, harder to connect with other people when they become an adult. Don't do that to the kids. If we can't get along now, why are we producing children in a household that doesn't get along? You guys got to change the way y'all think. The last one for tonight, man, we had a lot of glitchy if we get a lot less glitches. Tomorrow, We're going to be talking about all the chaos that's happening with what they talked about with stopping the war, even though the war is not stopping. Gas prices are continuously going up, and we're going to be talking about all the ins and outs of how this is going to impact us. So we're going to pay attention to that for Monday, and then remember that we have Canada as a discussion on Wednesday and different financial discussions on Tuesday. With that being said, I want to start off by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, I do this to give you guys the ability to make yourselves higher value men, not just by increasing your financial skills, but increasing your decision-making skills so that your decisions no longer impact your finances in a negative way. You have to prioritize the things that are inside of your control and then change the things that you don't like so that you can get yourself a better way of life and then navigate around the things that are outside of your control. Ladies, what is the male-driven podcast for the male's perspective? You too can take this information and make yourselves higher value women as well. But you also need to prioritize your 20 and 30-year goals. Know where you want to be at, not what it takes to get there. Reverse engineer that's what you need to do today. And then continuously aim for those goals, keeping your eyes and ears open for the potential suitors that have that personality, the characteristics, the drive, ambition, dedication, motivation, integrity, determination to achieve their goals, and then see how their goals mesh with your goals. Because while y'all don't have to have the same goals, if your goals are heading in the same direction, then your long-term satisfaction can aid both of you into accomplishing your goals a lot faster. I tell you guys on a regular basis that two parties can make it to $1 million faster than one, but it really requires you to both be in the direction of long-term satisfaction, not short-term gratification. Now, that's all I got for you guys for tonight. Special shout out to IP8, Michael, Steven, FX Trader, God Loves People, and OG Kicks. I really appreciate you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command.